Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds. Welcome to Screamplay, a show about spooky video games. With your hosts, Tom and John Ryman. This is our Halloween special, too.
I know, I've got some hot sake to keep me warm right now.
Well, it's good. It's appropriate. It's cold. It's a cold fall October night.
Oh, yeah. In North Carolina, it's 80 degrees.
It is 40 around here, 40s and 50s, so it's nice and chilly.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So you actually need to bundle up. Maybe you should have the sake.
Yeah, I just chugged a bunch of tea before I got on, so...
I mean, drinking a warm beverage being all bundled up and junk seems like perfectly in line with the game that we're talking about, right?
Yeah, he and Barry have partaken in a lot of hot toddies by the fire.
Yeah, it's Pacific Northwest. It's all the coffee.
Yeah.
The nice cidery drinks, Washington apples.
Yeah.
You're not buying anything that I'm throwing right now.
Listen, we're all in town for Deer Fest. I want some deer cider. I'm gonna get some deer jerky.
Cider.
Get some little deer skin socks for the toddlers.
You know they have some shitty, deer broth.
Oh yeah, they must.
Yeah.
Definitely. But we were talking about, are we going to welcome our fans?
We should. I mean, we'll welcome the people who are listening.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's
Well,
fans
I'm assuming they're
among them.
fans. Or otherwise, why are you listening?
They may be forensic investigators years in the future. But regardless, hello.
Hello, Halloweenies.
We're on another episode of Screamplay. It's a show about spooky video games, our special Halloween edition. It is October the 31st. Halloween. So we've brought a bone-chilling game for you today. But before that, let's introduce ourselves. I'm your co-host, Tom Ryman.
I'm your other co-host, John Ryman.
I'm Logan Trent.
Hey!
We actually introduce on this one.
Oh, yeah, no, I always
Logan
lose
Trent.
track about which one you do that for and which one you're supposed to hop in on.
So do I. I never remember.
Yeah.
It's every time we start a show, it's Dave and I have to frantically look through our notes to remember which intro we're supposed to be doing. Logan, thank you so much for being on, man.
I am glad to be on this one. This is going to be a lot of fun.
We had to have another person on this because it's so scary.
Two hosts wasn't enough. It's so terrifying. We needed the power of three to talk about today's game, which is
the scariest game ever released.
Alan Wake.
We're, of course, talking about Alan Wake. Yes.
Oh, God. Logan, I hope you didn't play this game by yourself, because I can't imagine that.
This game I had no idea existed, or I had a vague idea about it, maybe a couple of months ago, that it was the PS free game for your subscription, so I downloaded it. And I was not anticipating what this game was going to be.
Oh, man, neither was I. My son actually put me onto this game and said it was the scariest game he ever played. He was not being facetious in any way, shape, or form.
Real quick, what it is, Alan Wake was released in 2010 on Xbox 360 initially.
Yeah, it was an exclusive.
Yeah. And, of course, we're all playing. They just re-released a remastered version, Alan Wake Remastered, which is the specific version that we're covering today.
Yeah.
By Remedy Games and Epic Games. It's from the same team that brought us Max Payne.
Yeah, you kind of get a little bit of that Max Payne vibe in there. Kind of. Max Payne is another thing that is so gritty, it's comical.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, Logan, I interrupted you when I swooped in there to tell everybody the date this game originally came out, as if that was important.
Yeah, so the thing is when I first, heard about Alan Wake, I was confused because I had thought that it was one of those games from that weirdo guy, who did Heavy Rain.
Oh, David Cage?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think is his name?
Yeah,
Cage,
I thought it was
Cage.
that
Yeah,
because
David
he kind
Cage.
of looks like a David Cage, protagonist. But then I asked you, and you're like, oh no, just play the game. It is hilarious. And you were absolutely right.
This is the Naked Gun version of a David Cage game.
I messaged you, before we get into spoilers and stuff, but I think I messaged you 10 seconds into the game, and I'm like, the first thing he said is, I'm a writer. Then he hits a drifter, and shitty copies of his book fly out of the trunk. 10 for 10 intro, no notes.
Yep. That tells you, this game lets you know immediately what game you're playing.
Yeah.
I forgot that's the first thing that
He also has a Stephen King quote right before he says, I'm a writer. It's, fantastic introduction.
Holy shit. My God, this game.
Well, before we get into too much of it, Logan, since you're the guest, why don't we're all in a diner right now, eating pumpkin pie and drinking cider,
and a damn fine cup of coffee.
Yep.
and a damn fine cup of coffee, and a waitress comes up and tells us how awesome we are and what a fan she is of us, but we tell her to fuck off
Because we're giant pieces of shit.
Yeah, because we're huge pieces of shit.
because we're huge pieces of shit. But while we're waiting on the check to come and our to-go order, which almost certainly has spit in it now, why don't you favor us with a scary story and tell us a little bit about this game?
Well, okay. So, Alan Wake is a writer, and he thinks of himself way higher than his actual status as a writer is, because he's apparently the author of a series of cop novels about Alex Casey. So essentially, this is the guy who writes Bosch and Jack Reacher.
Right,
Yeah.
he's like James Patterson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yet he's possessed. He he kind of thinks of himself as this high regarded, incredible author. And when his fucking fan comes up to him in the diner and is like, hi, yeah, blah, 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 he just treats her like the worst piece of shit. And then later on, you get these, we'll get into the manuscript pages, but she literally says meeting him is the high point of her life, and he's just the biggest piece of trash. So
He's so mean to her.
But
He's like mean to his wife. Sorry.
Yeah.
You're telling this
We'll get
story.
more into that in the story portion.
Sorry. Logan's telling
So-
a scary story.
So as I said, it opens with that whole Stephen King quote, and then his shitty novel getting thrown into the air after hitting a drifter, and then he wakes up on a fucking ferry because you realize that was just a nightmare. And while he's on there, you just get to hear his moaning about his, I gotta write, I'm so hard for a new story, I gotta write so hard. And his wife's like, we'll relax, we'll take a nice vacation at this town that looks like every fucking stock town from an episode of Supernatural. And they go into there. And
It
apparently
looks like
darkness
Vancouver
has been
subbing in
unleashed.
for Seattle.
Yeah. It's definitely Vancouver for Seattle, 100%. Yeah. And then a darkness has been unleashed, and this darkness feeds on the shittiest type of storytelling, which we'll get into later. But
The undeniable power of Alan Wake's imagination.
yeah, my actual note, because there's other stuff too, but the darkness has terrible taste. All of humanity is in danger because of shitty dad rock and a Jack Reacher / Bosch novelist. And that's the plot.
No, I'm gonna fight you on that shitty dad rock, but we'll talk about that later.
I enjoy some of the songs, but just in the context of where they are fame-wise. That is definitely a dad rock band. But, so the darkness feeds off of whatever creative things are getting made by terrible writers, and it starts to turn them real. And as part of its little plan, Alan Wake, who is supposed to be on we'll take a vacation and I'll relax and I'll start writing getaway, the darkness lures it to a cabin on a lake and kidnaps his wife and forces him to write a novel to give it more power. And that's where the game starts.
The ghost kidnaps his wife.
Yeah, because he's so good at writing, the ghost kidnaps his wife.
Kidnaps his wife.
The ghost extorts him for money.
The ghost kidnaps.
And in many of the shots of him, I couldn't get over this. It's in so many of the little like cutscene shots of him hunched over his typewriter, feverishly pounding out the story. Like, I knew I had to write these words to save my wife. Like the ghost is literally standing over his shoulder like an editor. Like he calls her his editor, like waiting for the pages.
Yeah.
Like, when are you gonna finish that chapter, huh? We need that chapter, bro. We need it. Come on, man. Come on.
And
there was something really funny about the ghost just standing there to me. I don't know.
And as I mentioned, this ghost has the shittiest tastes, and he's under this like deadline. So we read these manuscript pages because as you're playing the game, you find these pages which are from his shitty novel. So what happens is the ghost makes him write for a week, and he just falls into a writer's trance, writing his crappy novel. He somehow escapes, crashes his car, his shitty novel flies all over the island, and you find it as you're trying to piece together what happened during your lost week and what happened to your wife. And let me just say, I think both of you made this point before I started this game, but he writes exactly like Garth Marenghi from Dark.
Yeah. We'll get into it.
Yeah.
We'll get into it.
The other world he's trapped in is called the Dark Place.
Yes.
Like, it's called the fucking Dark Place.
It sounds like we're making a lot of fun of this game, but this is the type of fun that I like enjoyed. Like, I was never bored with this game, and as shitty as like his writing was and all of that stuff, I had a blast playing it. It was a lot of fun, and it was hilarious. So, yeah, I'm glad you guys suggested that I play this.
I would say thank you for that spine-chilling tale, but
thank you for that tale.
Yeah.
Not a spine tingling so much, but
I think that the only other thing to mention is that this is formatted as episodes rather than like stages. So there's 6 episodes, and each is staged like a episode of a TV show.
Our agent Barry called ahead and booked us.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not going to the cabins. We're going off the road a little bit to our old friend's house.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to go visit with Vincent Price for a little bit and have him read over our manuscript, give us some notes. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going inside Spookaboo Manor.
Now I invite you to step inside Spookaboo Manor. Another trip inside Spookaboo Manor. I swear it never gets old. If these walls could talk.
It's getting old for Vincent. He kind of rolled his eyes at us.
That's true. This is where we talk about all the spookiness of the game, which is really where we're going to talk about all of the spookiness. Can you hear the air quotes in that that are in Alan Wake? It's a game. I wanted to say something because we hinted at it with the Damn Fine Cup of Coffee and the episodic stuff that Logan pointed out. Of course, we mentioned Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, which if you haven't heard of or seen before, it's a very funny British miniseries that you can find on Amazon Prime, I think, that stars a number of people that you've probably seen other
Holness,
stuff like
Matt Berry,
Richard
Iowade. A lot of funny people in that show.
So it's a lot like that, which is like it's a spoof of a sinister daytime soap opera that is trying very hard to be scary but just failing at it earnestly. But it also wears a lot of Twin Peaks on its sleeve. This is borrows a lot of the Twin Peaks general weirdness and oddness. Like if you haven't seen Twin Peaks in a while, you might remember all the horror stuff, but going back and rewatching it, if you haven't seen it in a while, there's also a lot of like really strange stuff and then stuff that's just flat out wacky or funny. And that's like Alan Wake. That is this entire game.
Yeah. There are a lot of odd characters in it, like in Twin Peaks. And the main character is in himself very odd.
Yeah.
And then also just a huge nerd and a real scumbag, real rude piece of shit.
Yeah, we can't really... Okay, so this is like the first thing I noticed. I was like... And we already touched on it with him being a dickhead to the waitress who literally said, this is the greatest day of my life. I'm your biggest fan. I get to meet you. And he's like... Basically tells her like, fuck off, leave me alone.
It's not just that.
I'm not here for this. I just want to get my key to my shitty cabin and leave.
She says it's the greatest day of her life. And then she also writes, when she sees him and his wife together, she would do anything just to be their friends. It's so sad.
And she even put up like a standee, like a modest standee. And by the way, guys, Barry's 100% fucking that standee, right?
There's a lot to talk about Barry.
There's a lot of darkness,
100%
a lot of potential
fucking
darkness swirling around Barry.
Yeah, we've got a lot to unwrap when we get to the Barry parts of this story, because Jesus,
he's 100%
what a character.
fucking that standee, though. Or at least sleeping with it.
Yes.
Or talking to it, having dinner with it, and having a conversation with it. This whole thing was because he has writer's block, right? So they go to this cabin, and his wife, Alice, has arranged everything. And he even got him, like, a super cool, like, antique typewriter.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I thought maybe, like, here, relaxing a little bit, you could, maybe get some inspiration, start writing. And he acts like she took a shit on the table in front of him. And
he's really upset
her.
by it. Yeah.
Yes.
He has the same energy of a cat, like, getting into a carrying case or something. Like, he refuses to want to touch that typewriter.
Right. He reacts like she bought land without telling him.
Yeah.
Or something, like a major purchase.
100% when like she's afraid, like a phobia with the darkness. 100% if he gets mad at her, I guarantee you he turns all the lights off in their apartment. Like, I guarantee it.
Yeah, he is very passive-aggressive, I'm assuming. Like, a very annoying person to live with. And you get that through the manuscript pages and some of the flashback shit that we see.
Yeah.
So, the game... It's not really scary, but, like, I don't know. I will say that, like... Even though all of its genuine, earnest attempts to be spooky just come off as cheesy, but in an endearing way, like in an oddly endearing way. I guess we're probably going to talk about that idea more. But like, I will say that there are genuine moments of tension playing the game that come out of the firefights that you find yourself in. Just because the main gameplay loop of this is you wander around in the dark in the woods for the most part, with a flashlight that you have to use on these darkness shrouded enemies. First, you have to disable them with the flashlight, and then you have to shoot them with a very basic arsenal of weapons. There's a shotgun and a rifle and a pistol, a flare gun, a couple of other things.
The combat's very akin to the Thing video game, which I kind of want us to do at some point.
That's the closest this game gets to scary. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, they designed this to try to use the environment, like, as much as it could to kind of try to get it scary. Like, there's some jump scares and stuff, like, with that. But, yeah, like you said, that's really where the scares come from, is just that.
Yeah, and I agree with you. It's like, it's the tension from being in the dark and in the woods, and then you hear that wind whip up, so you know that the darkness is coming. And you know that this game just springs guys on you, and it's like, are they going to be in front of me? Oh, they're going to be everywhere. So you constantly are wandering through the woods with your head on a swivel. It's like, are any of these... And all the enemies look like the village people. They're just in different,
Yeah.
They're different archetypes of small town jobs.
Yeah.
Like they're wearing costumes
they're
of small town.
Loggers, they're miners.
There's fishermen. There's lumberjack. There's miner. Yeah.
But they all just have a dark shade over them. So they themselves are not scary. But like that constant tension of like, oh God, I know one of these guys is going to pop. That actually does provide some tension and dread.
Yeah, one thing that because we had mentioned like the tension thing and it almost slipped my mind, but we were talking about those, his manuscript pages. Sometimes because I don't think we explained it, those manuscript pages kind of tell what's happening in the game. So sometimes you will get a manuscript page that will foreshadow a future enemy that you fight or something. So you kind of have that building tension too. Like there's something where it's like,
true.
Oh, a guy came out with a chainsaw and an axe, and then you're just like, wait,
or
what?
A plot twist.
Yeah.
There's a couple of plot twists that are sort of foreshadowed in that way, and that was kind of a cool way to do it, to give you a little bit of dramatic irony. But yeah, those pages are supposed to be the pages of the book that the ghost is making him write.
Yeah,
right?
that he wrote during his week-long sabbatical.
He fell into for a week.
Yeah, he wakes up. When he escapes, he drives away from that cabin that we had talked about, and he crashes his car, and he just wakes up, and it's a week later, and he looks like shit. And then, but those pages do go throughout, the entire narrative of the story. So, you're starting to get, spoilers ahead of time that kind of raises up the tension and the dramatic stakes, and like you said, that'll also give you, plot twists and stuff. So,
right.
Yeah. Pretty creative design, I guess, in that regard.
No, I mean, we're laughing a lot at it, but this game, guys, this game isn't bad. No. It's not bad. It's just funny.
I want to pose an important question to you both, because a lot of this game, I'm trying to find a delicate way to phrase this, because Remedy is obviously a good developer that's made quality games. It's a fun game to play with a huge cult fan base. I think all three of us really enjoyed playing this.
Oh, yeah.
But the question I want to ask is, how intentional do you think the cheesiness of this is? Because there are moments where it feels 100% intentional, particularly where you find there's a series of in-universe TV show episodes for a Twilight Zone knockoff called Night Springs you can find scattered throughout the game.
Which is just Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, really.
Right. They're all so cheesy, and they have to... You couldn't not know that they're corny. And there's a couple of there's some meta stuff in there with the Twin Peaks references. There's enough there that it's I feel like this is intentional, but enough of it also feels genuinely done in earnest that just it kind of happens to be cheesy, like Birdemic. What do you guys where do you guys think this game lands on that? Is it like a Sharknado where it's trying to be bad on purpose, or is it earning its B-movie sort of cheesiness genuinely?
Logan, you can go first.
So I think some aspects of it are very self-referential and aware. I kind of described it as a supernatural episode at first, and I think that that's kind of the tone, in terms of scares and kind of some of the comedy beats. But then you get, you mentioned the show, Night Springs and stuff, and that's just really... to understand that, in the game when you're watching it, those little clips are by live action actors, if you haven't played the game. So they're very low rent, cheap, TikTok type level acting and stuff. And those, I think they understood that those were not going to be great, but I also think that they tried to make them as well as they could, because they have that one with the hitchhiker who gets hit, and it's just a time loop of him getting hit by a car with him and his wife, and it just goes on and on. I'm like, wait, no, you actually thought that was a good story. That's not a joke. You tried on that one. And I actually like that one, honestly. That was my favorite Night Springs episode. So.
And it fits in the game.
I don't think I found that one.
It was a husband and wife are driving, and they see a guy on the road. I think they accidentally hit him, and then they go to check on him. The husband backs up into the street and gets hit by that car, and it just keeps creating a loop where they keep hitting him and going to check on the body and then hitting him again. And that was the only good episode of Night Springs. Everything else is just Tales from the Dark Side.
It is kind of dope.
So yeah.
There's
also, did you guys watch, there's a actual late night interview with Alan Wake in his apartment that you watch, and it is just god awful. It's so
it's the most incredible thing I've ever seen.
So bad. It's public access bad.
Yeah. So
well, that's one of the points. Okay, go ahead.
So that, I don't know where that falls on the scale. If they knew that they were doing that cheesy or stuff, because the other things, there are legitimate jokes in there that they are trying to do in the B sense type of thing, or the X-Files wink and a nod type thing. How about you guys?
Right. Well, like it's hard for me to tell because there's some things that's just like, this is clearly Garth Marenghi. You guys, I am sure, have seen Garth Marenghi at this point. It's just like, you guys know what you're doing. And then they like play it so earnestly though, so I'm like, I don't know. But then you have like the Knights, like this game is not clever. I mean, this game, like everything ties in, and I'm like, oh, okay, like, and it does kind of give you like this brain fuck at the end because, oh man, was Tom writing for Alan? Did Tom write Alan into existence, or did Alan write Tom into existence? Is any of this actually like, you know, they give you this whole like chicken and an egg, you know, scenario.
Right, yeah.
Because everything that these guys come up with, like, the darkness preys on creativity and use creativity to fuel it. So it uses Tom, who's a writer. It uses the Anderson brothers, who are, you know, musicians, and it uses Alan, who's another writer. And that it kind of does make you weirded out a little bit. It's like, did Alan even exist prior to Bright Falls, or? Because, like I said, it is kind of clever in that way. So, it, like, part of me is like, they have to know. They have to.
Yeah.
There are some, like, funny and weird, quirky things, especially with, like, David Lynch, who they cited as one of their influences was Twin Peaks and Stephen King. And both of them, David Lynch and Stephen King, do have senses of humor. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, and I kind of like that about this game, because you're not sure if the developers are in on the joke or not, and they don't say anything about it in interviews. They're just like, yes, we're making a horror game and this is our influences. And I'm like, but do you guys know that it's funny? Because it's incredibly funny. So, like, I'm not sure. I really don't know.
Yeah,
I'm kind of in the same. My answer to that question, I guess I'm falling more on I think it's intentional, but there's games I've played like Deadly Premonition, which is another horror type game that is based very clearly on Twin Peaks, but that one is much more clearly intentionally goofy and cheesy, whereas this one is really trying to blur the lines. But I feel I'm coming down more on the side of this is all with like the mixed media, like you mentioned, with the live action performers mixed in with the rendered video game characters. There's so much intent there that I'm the more I talk about it, the more I lean towards it's intentional, but it's very, very well done. So it feels genuine in so many parts.
Yeah.
Did you guys know that there was a web series prequel that came out with the release of this game?
I saw that literally like maybe a half hour before we started recording, so I have not watched it.
No, I didn't.
That blew my mind. They released a web series, a prequel web series of this, Tom, and I desperately want to watch it.
Oh man, I know there's like little side videos you can watch if you noticed the QR codes that are randomly in some parts of the game.
I did those.
Yeah.
If you scan those, they load little videos of Alan doing some dumb monologue while he's typing on his typewriter.
Yeah, I will say this. They do get some accuracies with like the type of writer he is. My favorite thing is when you hold the sprint button, he gets winded way quicker than any other character does in those type of games because he's a shitty writer who probably has terrible lungs. Like,
and probably smokes too.
Smokes all the time, yeah.
And he definitely...
He's wearing a sweater! He's wearing a sweater the entire game.
He's wearing a hoodie under a tweed jacket with the arm
tweed
pads.
jacket.
He must smell so bad.
Tweed jacket.
He has not showered in literally a week, and he's like fallen into nasty lake water, and he's just running through the woods. There's no way he doesn't smell like garbage. It's just
also. Yeah. I noticed something. He is wearing black cowboy boots, which is what Garth Marenghi wears.
Ooh.
I didn't notice they were cowboy boots. I thought they were just really like nice wingtips or something.
They look a lot like cowboy boots with the pointed toes and like the heel on the back. Go back and look at it. They look like cowboy boots.
But the bottom line is he definitely smells like an ashtray in a used bookstore.
Yeah, he looks like
God, yes,
shit.
that was doused in toilet water.
He looks like the paperback section at a truck stop.
Yes. There's a lot of hero characters in this where it's just people are the worst
several heroes
versions
in
of
this game.
anybody. Like,
let's talk about Barry, because I know everybody wants to right now.
Sure. He is chief among the secondary heroes in this game.
how many lawsuits do you think Barry has had? Just
oh god,
how many has he managed for Alan, or how many
between
has
the
he
both
had
of them,
personally?
how many have they had to settle out of court? Because I feel like that those two have definitely had some legal entanglings.
Yeah,
Like I think he literally says that Alan punched a paparazzo when he was angry.
That's a plot point.
Yeah.
yep.
So, oh
To
god.
show that he's a dick with a bad temper problem.
Yeah.
But no, he's definitely like a Barry Zuckercorn from Arrested Development.
Yes, he is a very stereotype of a shitty agent / lawyer. Like, he does
He
have one of
shows up wearing a Hawaiian shirt, shorts, and Marty McFly's jacket from Back to the Future.
Yeah, puffy jacket.
He also consistently mentions how he hates Alan's wife, which is incredible considering that she's missing. Like,
Now I don't like him much, Alan, but I'll help you find her because we're best friends.
my favorite part.
What if Barry
You're right,
drowned
he does
Alice?
constantly remind her that he hates his
Yeah,
wife.
he's like, I don't get along with her, but I hope her dead body doesn't float up, Alan. Okay?
That Alice is a real bitch, but I hope we find her.
Wish she was
Yeah.
dead, but I'll help you find her.
In one of the manuscript pages, he actually talks about how much he likes Rose, the waitress, and how nice he is. And he's like, yeah, me and Alan always disagreed on women. And I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, we get it.
So
You
did
hate
me and Alice
Settle
when she
down,
tried
Barry.
to hook me up with her friend, and I was, quote, not respecting boundaries.
But yeah, Barry does have one of my favorite jokes in the game, though.
Which one?
It's later on, you and the sheriff, you're like trying to get away from the police station, and you think Barry might have been like killed because there was like an explosion, and then you find him, but he's fine because, as we mentioned, like light keeps the darkness away, so he's covered in glow sticks and shit, like he's out at a
And
raid,
Christmas
and they
tree
try to make
lights.
fun of
Yeah.
him. Oh yeah, Christmas tree lights and stuff, and he's like, no, I'm just. I don't want to die. This is I'm covered in light. This is the smartest thing you could do. And he's absolutely right. It's a great joke.
Yeah, Barry's a goddamn cockroach. He survives everything without a scratch on.
It is incredible.
Right. It's almost like a meta joke because he's clearly the character that is introduced in a movie. You're like, well, obviously he's gonna die, and he doesn't.
He survives getting drugged by Rose with a bunch of sleeping pills. He survives a helicopter crashing, and he survives an explosion of a propane tank that blows up an entire diner. Like
And he's also
cannot die.
survives like 2 car crashes.
Yes.
That's true. Yeah, fucking Alan flips the car down in the canyon, and they're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I was thrown free and landed in some bushes. I'm like,
My
you would
puffy
still be
jacket helped
fucked
me.
up after that.
Nah, it's the puffy jacket.
Yep.
Yeah. That's
Also, he
true.
survives the kidnapping. I forgot about that. The shitty. So we mentioned Alan's wife is bringing him to there to write and stuff. But there's also a subplot where there's this therapist on that island that she kind of wants him to meet so that he can treat him. But then it turns out that this therapist is a fucking creep ass piece of shit. So
Right. It's
With a
like
gun
Dagger
on
of the
his
Mind.
desk.
yeah.
A gun on his desk out in the open in a mental hospital.
But
And he's like, I love that the reveal that this guy's scam is unrelated.
yes.
It's not related to the darkness. You find his diary. He's just like, I want to find a creative person so I can attach myself to them and ride their coattails. That's it.
Yeah.
That's as sophisticated as it gets.
So, when you understand that and you realize he has nothing to do with the darkness, he finds Alan and he drugs him so that he can kind of convince Alan that his wife had died earlier and that all of the darkness stuff is just whatever is going on in his brain and that Alan is his patient so that he could steal his stories. But then literally later that night, you find that he has Barry locked in a storage closet. That was his grand plan. It was like, what?
Well, Barry doesn't even know he was kidnapped.
No,
he's just like,
he's
I've
just
been waiting
sitting
for this
there.
guy for 3 days.
It's incredible. Yeah. No.
This guy's pretty rude, Alan.
So,
Barry, you were kidnapped. This is a felony.
He abducted you, Barry.
so Barry just,
Yeah, he's a real jerk.
So kidnapping, a helicopter explosion, a diner explosion, getting drugged, multiple car accidents, and then just all the other assorted things. Barry is incredible.
Oh,
Just
that
a
drunk
fantastic-
scene.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we gotta hide out in this house and wait for the darkness to leave because there are monsters outside. Let's get drunk.
Yeah, while we're looking for your missing wife who's
Yeah.
been abducted
Let's get drunk
by a
on moonshine
ghost.
made by two people that we encountered in a mental asylum. That was
Yeah.
their life.
Oh, those are
choice.
two other heroes.
God, the
Tor,
Anderson
Tor and
brothers.
Odin. Yeah.
That, I mean, if we're talking about gameplay, I think that might have been my favorite part of the game. Is so we mentioned that they go to like that place that the band lived at and stuff. There's a part where you have their sound stage and it shoots up pyro and you get a full supply of ammo and you just get to shoot the shit out of people. And it's probably some of the most, like, that's where it's like, I think the game is in on it because they have fun things like that where it's like this would be cool as shit.
Right, and it looks like the Spinal Tap stage from that episode of The Simpsons they were on. You got Barry on the ones and twos, and he's like throwing his hands in the air.
The music kind of, like the guy singing kind of sounds like Ronnie James Dio. It's like, I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, it's
pretty sweet.
The other aspect is the other worst character in this game, who is do you think that
Agent Nightingale?
Yeah, do you think Agent Nightingale is real?
Man, I think Agent Nightingale is struggling with that very question himself.
Because, Jesus Christ. Agent Nightingale...
Am I real? Clutching his bottle of whiskey.
Nightingale...
Just thinking up random author names to call Alan Wake.
Oh, God,
like,
the
guys,
worst
we
trend
get
in
it.
there. Yeah.
We gotta... Logan, explain who he is. We gotta explain who Nightingale
so
is.
Man.
during this thing where Alan is searching for his wife, an FBI agent just shows up out of nowhere, and he's apparently hunting Alan Wake. And this guy...
Where there's not a federal crime taking place.
No, it's just a guy has had a car accident and has lost time for 7 days and is wondering where his wife is. There's no reason for the FBI to be involved. But literally every interaction with this character, including Alan's manuscript pages, are all people talking about what a piece of shit this guy is. And every first-person perspective one from that character, Nightingale, is just like, oh, I hope I could get the booze to carry me along this way. Oh, God. It's like if Harvey Bullock had a shittier brother.
Yeah. It's like Harvey Bullock without the competence.
Yeah.
You're right. Every description of him is a person commenting on how drunk he is, and then his own first person perspective is like how drunk oh god, I need that sweet booze if I'm gonna beat Alan Wake.
There's a part where Alan manages to stumble into the local radio station because the host was somebody he met on that ferry that we talked about earlier, and he starts talking to him, and the host kind of blows that Alan is there. He's just like, hey, we have a famous author. So Nightingale storms the studio and immediately draws his gun and starts firing on the host.
He
Who's
shoots
just
at
a guy
him.
hosting a radio show.
And by the way, Alan is unarmed and has not been accused of committing a violent crime.
He's unarmed, and the sheriff of the town is telling him not to shoot. He's just
Right,
a piece of shit.
I wanted to point that. No, I was just underlining what you said. I wanted to make sure we pointed that out. Like, the game understands that this is insane because it has the other characters be like, that's insane that you're shooting at this guy.
Yeah. And as John brought
Did
up,
Alan Wake write this character?
That's what I mean. Like, he's so underwritten and insane. Did Wake create him as part of his manuscript? Does he? Because he just disappears. The darkness grabs him, and you never see him again. So I'm wondering if he's...
Yeah, I thought they were going to do a boss fight with him, and they didn't.
Yeah.
You see him at the very end when, spoilers, Alan has elected to trap himself in the darkness and write for the ghost to save Alice, and he reset the town to everything the way it was the day he arrived. And you do see Nightingale in that scene. He's kind of lurking in this house
looking
behind
ashamed.
the waitress. Yeah,
So that
he's looking like a real piece of shit.
okay, so that makes it even crazier then, because like I excused it. I was like, oh, maybe he's just a hastily put together character that Alan had to write. But
he still could be creating him. He could be creating all of it. Like that's a question I actually hadn't thought of until you guys brought it up. Like the whole reality that we played through in the game could have been invented by Alan.
So
right.
If he created that character, how shitty are the Alex Casey novels that Alan writes if that's the law enforcement character he's writing?
Yeah. I mean, probably pretty shitty.
Yeah. One other thing, John, you mentioned it. I don't think we got into it. Every single time Nightingale meets Alan, he just calls him by the name of some author, and then by the end he starts getting so esoteric. It's just like, okay, Bret Easton Ellis. It's like, what? Like that's not even the same style he writes in. What? Yeah, he just goes all over the place. Like he doesn't try to describe him as cop like authors or like mystery authors or anything. He just like grabs any book that he's probably heard an author of. Like
he calls him like Dean Koontz and James Joyce and all kinds of stuff.
Raymond Chandler, H.P. Lovecraft. He pulls specifically things that book nerds would pull.
Yeah, but
which is a very funny detail about him, I guess.
Yeah, this guy looks like he has never used a book except to beat a suspect in interrogation with.
Right, he's choked a man with a book, and that's it.
Or he's read, like, Hustler magazine or something. Like, those are the only quote-unquote printed literature that he has put his hands on.
Yeah. Another thing with the manuscript pages that you kind of discover if you, like, start reading them all, this town is the most depressingly thirsty town I have ever seen. So,
yep.
First off, like, the guy who kidnaps Alan Wake's wife just has a whole thing about talking about how hot she is and how he's like, oh, I bet you like this. And that's creepy. Rose, the fan, has some weird, longingly, like, unrequited love with this deputy. And when you read the deputy's chapters, he's literally talking about how he has no love for his wife and wants to marry Rose, and then he dies, and his last thoughts are about how he wished he could take his ring off and tell his wife he did not love her. And then throughout the whole thing, the darkness is desperate for anyone who could tell a story and is just horny for words. So, like, it's just everyone has this aura of weird thirstiness, and it's just really sad.
What if Alan Wake wrote the darkness into existence? I mean, these are the questions that this game poses.
I don't know if I can approach that thought lest I slip forever into madness.
I need the most powerful creativity in the world. Give me Alan Wake.
Tom, you mentioned, like, at the end of the game, Alan, so while his wife is captured, he realizes that in order to free her, he needs to bring balance. So, of course, the balance isn't just, like, him dying or something. It's he has to give up his writing, because his writing is so good that it needs his writing for all of eternity. And it's just, he thinks so highly of himself as a writer. And his final lines that he writes are the most dog shit lines. Do you remember them or no?
Oh, it's not a lake. It's an ocean.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Oh,
awesome.
Standing ovation.
Yeah.
Somebody does point out to him, I think it's Nightingale. It's Nightingale or the weird fake psychiatrist does point out that it's weird that this, like, darkness plot seems to be painting you and your talent as a writer specifically as the savior of all humanity. It's like a really narcissistic fucking thing to just conveniently happen to you.
There's even a thing where he talks about the character Tom, who's in a deep sea like diving suit for some reason, like a real deep sea. We're talking like Mariana's Trench deep sea diving suit that he apparently used in a lake. Mm-hmm. He's like, I must have written Tom into my story to give me a way out because I'm so good at writing and cool.
Yeah, he's constantly saying, like, I need to figure ways out. I
subconsciously wrote this in because I'm awesome.
Yeah, no. And again, like, it all becomes so hilarious when you realize that it's just a fucking, like, Tom Clancy level or, like, fucking Jack Reacher author.
It is,
like,
yeah, it is 1,000% a Food Lion paperback.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say the same thing. It's the kind of paperback you buy in a grocery store.
Yeah, It's the, oh no, shit, I forgot my charger. I need something to read on a plane of authors.
Yeah.
Is Alan Wake.
I'm doing laundry. I need something to pass the time. Someone left this at the laundromat. This looks good enough to read. It's not, but it'll pass the time.
I need a stack of pages that'll make 2 hours suck less. So
I love the
Alan Wake.
I love the idea if somebody had like dropped a copy of Shakespeare by the lake, like the fucking Darkness's brain would have exploded. Like, oh shit, this is so much better than the garbage I've been reading. Like,
bring me trash.
Yeah, who's this guy, Stephen King? Oh, he's phenomenal. What the fuck am I dealing with you for?
If you just gave the Darkness a library card, it would have been so much better.
Oh no, you would have doomed humanity.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any more thoughts about the spookiness or lack thereof of Alan Wake?
Oh man. We're laughing a lot, but it does have some tense moments, and it God damn it, this goddamn game.
It's a lot more fun while you're playing it, and it does get a little spooky. Like, if you just let it, like, kind of wash over you, they do a great job of doing atmosphere and kind of trying to use the environments in ways that do create spookiness. So, like, though we're making fun of it, like, it does understand the assignment, so to speak. So, yeah.
It's spooky in a haunted house.
Mm-hmm.
Like a haunted house for kids kind of way, I guess. In that, I don't know. It's immersive, but it's fun. It's fun.
And like we talked about with The Seventh Guest, it's real like kind of B-movie cheesy.
Yeah, fun spooky, like pumpkins and spiders spooky more than anything else.
Pumpkin spiders. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Pumpkin spider. Well, let's bid adieu to Vincent Price, who's kind of just nodding off in his chair.
You stayed too long.
Let's wander out back, open the creaky gate into the cemetery, and let's enter the boneyard.
Perhaps now we should go traipsing through the boneyard. This is where we talk about the gameplay. The mechanics and stuff of actually playing the game. Alan Wake is, we didn't really mention it, but it's a pretty standard third-person action game, very reminiscent of survival horror games of the time, like Resident Evil 5. Over-the-shoulder perspective, where you just pew-pews, shoot a bunch of bad guys. You have a small arsenal of weapons and tools to do that, like flashbangs and flares and flare guns and pistols and shotguns, and different kinds of flashlights. And that's pretty much it. That's the... Gameplay is light exploration. It's pretty linear, but there are a few side paths you can take to find hidden manuscript pages, which are always worth looking for because
it's
the joy of the cheesiness of this game is what makes it fun to play. But that's the gameplay in a nutshell.
Yeah, the joy of finding out what Alan Wake thinks is good writing is worth looking for all the manuscript pages.
Yeah. Even if it's like a paragraph of the internal thoughts of like a character that doesn't even have a name.
Yeah.
We needed to find this.
Nightingales are especially tragic, but also hilarious.
It's what Logan said is so true. It's like if it's another, it's like Diana looked at Agent Nightingale and thought of what a drunk piece of shit he was. And if it's a Nightingale page, like Agent Nightingale gripped the bottle of whiskey and thought about what a drunk piece of shit he was.
It's like, I pray I have enough booze.
Be cool and have all the girls like Alan Wake does.
He wanted to punch himself in both nuts repeatedly.
All he could think of is how much of a larger penis Alan Wake had than him, which was terribly small because he sucked.
What if that happened? Because like everything Alan writes becomes real. What if just like randomly he walks into a scene and his dick is like dragging out the bottom of his pant leg?
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
What are you talking about?
I thought you were going to talk about Nightingale getting baby dick, but yeah.
No. Just like Alan Wake showing up with an elephant's trunk hanging out of his pant leg.
Yeah. What do you think about this, Alice? Oh my God! And then he just writes it out. Alan's penis wasn't as big as he said it was earlier.
It was normal size, and it wasn't weird or scary at all. It totally didn't freak his wife out at all. She was really into it.
For my note for Nightingale, I wrote, worst FBI agent ever, mourned and investigated by no one after he dies. Which...
Yeah.
Yeah, they got the notice that he's dead. They're like, oh, thank God. Don't even look into it.
What I like to think is like he came in as like a competent and likable investigator, but Alan Wake just wrote him that way because he was too suspicious of him.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That could be true. We'll never know.
It could be. We don't know.
Maybe that's why he's such an over-the-top piece of shit.
Well, we kind of mentioned it earlier as far as the gameplay, but my favorite part probably was killing the darkness with rock and roll and fireworks. I thought that was a lot of fun.
That was a blast, yeah. That's towards the end of the game, but it is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. And they do break it up like that because the gameplay is very, I would say tedious because it's the same thing over and over again, and every time you get into a new episode, they reset your inventory, and sometimes they'll reset it in the middle of the episode. So, like, all your guns are gone, your flashlights are gone. There's no leveling up system, so you don't have a skill to, like, make your... You have to find, like, higher grade flashlights to, do more light damage to the enemies before you take them down. I get why they did it because it makes story sense, but that was kind of lacking. But they do set up some of these fun like games and spectacles where you're like, well, okay, I have this generator here. I've got some spotlights and stuff like that, and just with like the fireworks and the spotlights in the rock and roll game, the gameplay actually is not bad. It's actually pretty fun at points.
Yeah, there's a thing that they have where like whenever a monster or whatever is about to hit you, you can just dodge, and they kind of try to create it like it kind of helps with like the cinematic feel of things. The only issue I would have with the gameplay, but this is more of a design thing, is that I feel like they could have used more variety on some of the bad guys. Because as Tom mentions, they're all like the same type of like industrial worker. Like, oh, this is the same lumberjack I've killed like 5 times, or this is the same coal miner I've killed like 3 times. And they don't really have much variety beyond that. And then same thing kind of with the guns too. Like, I think you only get like, there's kind of like just 4 guns I think you use the whole game.
Pretty much, yeah. Pistol, flare gun, shotgun, and a rifle. There's 2 kinds of shotguns. There's a bump action and a double barrel.
Yeah, I flashbangs and flares and stuff like that. Yeah,
I liked changing it up with the flares, being able to throw the flashbangs. It was a little irritating when they would just take your inventory away from you and make you start all over again. But it usually didn't take too long to get all your stuff back. Honestly, there was like the things that tripped me up the most were a couple of weird design things, and then one genuine complaint. My genuine complaint is they do the horde mode thing too often, which is a little frustrating to me in games of this type. Yeah, so you guys know what I'm talking about. But like basically, for anyone who's unclear of what maybe I mean, is to take the place of like a traditional like boss encounter where you might fight a single really powerful enemy. They just do a thing where you're stuck in an area for a time limit, and you just have to fight your way through wave after wave of increasingly more powerful regular enemies. And they do this, I think, in every single episode.
Yeah. And I already said like they incorporate new ways to like, kind of do the combat, and like with the metal stage, the heavy metal stage, but that's really the only one that they do it with. There's no other really like fun. Man, if like they did something in town with like the parade floats and stuff like that, that would have been really cool.
That's what I was hoping, because there's that part where you're going through the town when you're escaping the sheriff's office, and like that could have been a time like you mentioned where
there's you have an enemy encounter around one of the parade floats. Well,
it just runs them over. It doesn't light up anything.
It doesn't do anything.
And if you're thinking about like Deer Fest, it's like, okay, well this might be like a state fair type deal. Maybe they have some like cheap amusement rides and stuff like that.
I still think they're drinking deer during Deer Fest. That's what I think it is.
Yeah, Deer Fest is just an excuse.
Drinking mugs of deer cider.
Yep.
I'm on to you, Bright Falls.
But yeah, like that was a missed opportunity. They had some opportunities to do that. They really only did it with the one scene. And yeah, I thought they could have done some more fun stuff with that. Like, bonfires or something. Because, like, you'll see fires in, like, trash cans and stuff, and they're not bothered by that light at all.
I thought they could have had something with, like, a melee weapon or something like that. Like, like a 2x4 on fire or something.
Like a pipe or something.
Yeah,
that's... I guess the flashlight technically counts for that.
But you couldn't beat him with a flashlight.
That's true. You should be able to smack him.
That's Logan, that's a Chicago PD special with, like, one of those mag lights. Yeah.
Hey, let me get you there with that flashlight there. Yeah, there you go. You got it. I had two little weird design things that are just kind of like nitpicky. These are the like I said, I had the legitimate complaint, which was the swarm of enemies thing that they sort of do as the boss encounter for every episode. These other things were just kind of like weirdness that tripped me up a little bit. Like the first one is the default in this game for when you're aiming your gun is an over the left shoulder.
Oh, right. God. I kept having
Does that fuck you guys up?
Yeah.
I had to keep switching. You're 100% correct.
If you press like R3 down,
you click R3, it switches,
and I had to constantly do that because I'm like, this just feels so weird.
It's so weird looking over the left shoulder.
The only time I've ever seen that happen in another game is when you're playing Sheva in Resident Evil 5 because she's left-handed.
It's also an issue because, like, sometimes, as we mentioned, like, you're in the woods a lot and it's like there's darkness and you have to use your flashlight to, like, find shit. So you just always have to make sure it's over the right side because when you're trying to search for, like, oh, you need this key or whatever, like, it's so awkward when it's over the left. But yeah, I totally forgot about that till you brought it up. It's just, I don't know why they did that.
I don't know. Maybe it's I don't know.
Another thing I didn't like about the gameplay is every time like something like an enemy comes at you, they'll pause and they'll move and focus. They'll slow everything down and focus on that enemy. Sometimes when they do that, you're in the middle of trying to fight somebody else, and that will fuck me up. Because I'm like, I gotta go. Come on. And it slows everything down. Or like when you shoot a flare, this sometimes happens, and they zoom in for the Zack Snyder 300 shot of that guy getting blown up by a flare.
Which rules.
Yeah, which rules. But I'm fighting, like, because this game, they don't throw just one enemy at you at a time. They throw like 8 to 10 enemies at you at a time. Like, I'm busy trying to fight something else at the same time. I'm like, yes, that's really cool, but I really need to swerve to my left so I can take this guy with a chainsaw coming at me from the other direction. Yeah. And that kind of is annoying.
They had that a couple of times. It happened to me where I was trying to shoot, like, they had like propane tanks around and stuff, and if you shoot them, they explode. And I keep shooting at it, but instead it would go to this enemy that was like 2 inches over to the left, and I kept trying to adjust it, and it wouldn't hit it. And yeah, it was frustrating, the targeting on there.
Yeah, the auto target.
Yeah.
The auto target was incredibly frustrating. Like, I had a couple times where I'm like, shoot this guy. It's like, you mean this guy? No, this guy. You mean this guy? No, that's the same guy you showed me before. No, I want to shoot this guy.
Did you guys like the driving stuff? Because I kind of had fun, like, just plowing over a bunch with like the headlights.
Yeah, I turned it into a relay race. I would pull over anytime I saw a different car, and I would jump out and take that car.
Yeah, same.
I would do the opposite and try to see how much damage I could put on the car and see if it would still run.
Oh, I should try that next time.
Like, I was running without doors and without a hood on and shit, and just like smoking
I should have done that. That would have been way more hype.
Yeah, no, you gotta be hyped, man.
The final little design weirdness note thing that I had is the dodge. It sucks. The dodge sucks. It's like weirdly implemented. It's the same button as sprint, but you have to hold it and then press a direction, and then you'll dodge in that direction. It's awkward. It's weirdly implemented. It's strange. It's the same button as sprint. There's my nitpick.
And I'll just to touch on what Logan said earlier, Alan Wake has the cardio of a 400-pound 80-year-old man. And, like, you can sprint for, like, half a second, at which point he will slow down tremendously, and everybody in the game runs faster than you. Like, you can't run away from enemies that effectively.
It's not just slow down. Yeah. He'll slow down and put his hands on his knees and go...
Oh my god, I know monsters are chasing me, but I have to catch my breath.
Yeah, like he needs an oxygen tank. It's hilarious. It's just that man has spent too much time around cigarettes in just
yeah.
No.
He's been smoking in his chair too much.
He's like, oh god, why do I have to run? I could just be like smoking and drinking coffee and talking about Immanuel Kant or whatever.
Why didn't you write fucking rocket skates or a jetpack into your story, Alan? You dipshit.
Like Alan Wake was in peak physical condition. Oh, I forgot to do that. You know,
it's got the huge vibes of like a dude who accidentally starts dating someone who's really into hiking and he's not ready for that type of shit. Like fuck. Sorry.
He goes down the bunny slope at a ski resort. It's like, I'm ready for Black Diamond. It's like, you just find pieces of his equipment as you go down the trail.
That's what we're doing. We're gathering up pieces of his stupid book.
Yeah, because they all flew out of his car because they weren't
my
in a box or anything. My masterpiece. The other thing that's frustrating is the enemies have perfect aim. Mm-hmm. And even if you're running and trying to serpentine, which I tried to do, like, because there's some situations where, like, the enemies will just keep coming, so you have to get to the checkpoint and they'll go away. But, like, I'll be running and I'll be hit with every single object they throw at me. You cannot... They have perfect aim. So there were a couple times where I'm just like, what? I don't know what else to do. Because I'm running away. They hit me with everything they're throwing at me. They're about 50 yards behind me. I wish they played for the Bears, honestly. With how well and how far and precise they could throw.
Anybody have any more thoughts for the old Boneyard?
Yeah, get some different enemies in there.
Yeah,
that's about it.
Yeah, they really.
I have fought Lumberjack A about 50,000 goddamn times.
I didn't realize until really like when you two were bringing up. They could have really tried to have a different type of ending fight for the different episodes like they did with the stage. Like that was just so much fun, and it just glaringly sticks out when you notice how boring the other horde fights are.
And they only did this a handful of times, but like with what is his name, Carl or whatever you're supposed to get the keys from, like he's just talking gibberish at you the entire time. Like when you're fighting the ranger, he's like just reciting like, you know, park rules and stuff that he has to do. I thought that was cool, and they only did it for like those two guys and then the orderly in the mental hospital, and I was like, oh well, you guys could have done that more.
Yeah.
Oh, we're talking about like the enemies will say something that relates to their past
life.
Yes,
exactly.
Cool
they're like just spouting gibberish, but it's like, don't feed the animals, you know, and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a cool idea.
Yeah, it added a kind of like, that did add to the spookiness of it, just because it's like, you can see that they're not alive. They're just kind of stuck in this, like...
Yeah, they're on autopilot, essentially. Well, does everybody have all the bones they want?
I've collected enough, I think.
I have a wheelbarrow. You guys can hop in it, and I can take you into our next section, which we are now calling Trick or Treat. And this is the section where we give ratings to the horror of the story and to the gameplay on a scale of 1 to 10 bones for the gameplay and 1 to 10 spookaboos for the horror. Logan, you're the guest. You get to go first. Where on that scale of the spookaboos do you rate the horror of Alan Wake? I know it's a 10.
Yeah, like I said, this is just kind of like a supernatural episode. Like even down to like the type of horror and like scares they do. So it's kind of like, I wasn't super scared, but like I could see what they were trying to do in terms of getting like jump scares and stuff. So it was fun, but, you know, again, like we mentioned, there's a lot of humor in there, so it never gets, like, too dark, other than, like, you know, your wife being captured and stuff, obviously. But, yeah, it never...
Being kidnapped by a ghost.
Yeah, kidnapped by a ghost with shitty taste. But, like, yeah, it never... There's never... I'm trying to think of a game where it really kind of, like, stays completely dark the entire time. With like horror stuff, you guys probably have a better example than that, but it never.
Oh yeah, we had The Evil Within.
Yeah, like it never gets into like that type of thing. So I'd say probably maybe like a 6 or a 7, depending on how you take scares in terms of the spookiness.
All right. Well, Tom, scale of 1 to 10 spookaboos. What would you give Alan Wake?
I'll give it a 5. I think. I'll give it a 5. It's tense. If you're not an old hand at playing horror games, I could see this one being pretty scary because the enemies are kind of frightening, and the situations where you have to fight them can be pretty spooky. You have to keep your head on a swivel, like you mentioned. They keep on coming, and yeah, they're kind of spooky. But that's I can't imagine anyone getting scared by anything else in this game.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm content with a 5.
I will also give it a 5, and the reason being is, like, yeah, there's some tense moments, but the more I'm thinking about this game, the more I'm siding with Tom. Is like, they knew what they were doing. You have to. And it's kind of just like kind of a love letter to, like, these cheesy, super serious, like, horror dramas, which is what Garth Marenghi is. But yeah, like, there are some tense moments, like when you're going through the woods and you know they're going to ambush you with something. It's just a matter of when and from how many directions it's coming from. So that does build some tension. The story's actually not bad. It's everything, like, I wasn't given a lot of question marks except for Nightingale. I was like, what the hell is with this guy? Yeah, no, I'd give it a 5. It kind of, like, celebrates this one, kind of, I guess it's kind of niche, like, horror drama area that David Lynch and Stephen King like to splash around in.
It feels like an homage to the horror TV miniseries is what it feels like.
Yeah, like Twin Peaks or like Friday the 13th, the series.
Yeah, exactly.
Or yeah, I'd give it a 5. 5, and it's a smiley face 5. It's like, yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, it's like broadcast TV level horror. It's not like, it's not something like you would be like, oh, this is super dark and scary, like you'd watch on like HBO or anything, but it tries,
Oh, you probably would watch it on HBO, but it's like essentially like the Red Shoe Diaries.
Oh, I got a big CW vibe from it, honestly, like in terms of like,
yeah. All right, well, that's the horror section. Now we're going over to the gameplay section, where we rank it in bones because bones is the money that skeletons use. So, Logan, 1 to 10 bones on Alan Wake gameplay.
Are we just including like mechanics and like variety and stuff, or?
Yeah, and how fun it was to play.
Yeah, how like you personally would rank it. We're not really going by like any like strict metric. It's just basically like, was this fun to play? What did you like about it on that scale, 1 to 10? This
is a lot more fun to play than it is like innovative. Like, as you mentioned, like there's a lot of repetition in terms of enemies and stuff like that. But the story is fun enough, and like unpackaging the mystery and all of the stuff that you could hunt down in terms of like the Night Springs episodes, the manuscript pages, the radio shows that you could listen to, and like all that assorted things, like kind of boost it way higher than maybe the lack of variety in terms of like enemies and stuff would like keep it down on. So I'd put this at like a 7, 8, like just, I would definitely play this again, and I look forward to playing the sequel, which I just saw a trailer for. So yeah, it'd be fun to go back into this world. I don't think that this is like,
getting 10s across the board, apparently.
Yes.
The sequel.
And apparently there was like I think there's a DLC game on this that I didn't realize that I need to play.
Yeah, there are like 2 DLC episodes that I haven't played, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I'd give this about a 7 then.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I think I'm landing on a 7. I thought it was reasonably tight, even with the weirdness I pointed out. It was fun to play. It's a decent loop. It didn't. I think it found enough variety to keep it interesting, just long enough for the game's length. So it did. I think if the game had been any longer, maybe it would have started to wear a little thin. But perfect for the length of the game.
It doesn't overstay its
just
welcome.
Right, I think.
Like it's a well-paced thing.
I will also give it a 7. I think we're all going to agree with that across the board. I did think it got kind of long in the tooth in the last level where they're like, are you guys going to make me drive the entirety of this? Okay.
They sure are.
They sure are. Which makes a little bit of sense because they originally conceived this as like an open world game instead of linear, where Alan Wake, like everything was... The whole town was evacuated due to the volcano, and Alan Wake just got stuck in it and was battling supernatural forces. But yeah, it got a little long in the tooth there. But yeah, I mean, it's they give you like moments like with the heavy metal stage. They break it up with some driving, like different quirky characters in it, again with like the finding the manuscripts and reading just the absolute hilarity that was in there. It's pretty fun. I mean, it's not like we've been laughing a lot and like making fun of it a little bit, but I really honestly think it's a pretty fun time to play, especially I forget how much it is on the network right now, the remaster. It's not that much.
It's included with PS Plus, I thought.
Yeah, and also it's not that long. It like seems to kind of fall in that sweet spot. Like they don't Logan's right. They don't overstay their welcome, really. Once you start getting sick of it is like when they end. And yeah, no, I haven't played any of the DLCs or anything like that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to playing the sequel, and hopefully it's just as dumb as this was, because this is just dumb fun to laugh at and have a blast playing.
One thing I forgot to mention though, one thing I did like is the side characters that you have walking with you, whether it's like you don't have them all the time, like the sheriff or Barry, like they actually do shit. Like the sheriff uses a shotgun, is like it's not the typical like side by side with an NPC where it's like okay, you're just like actively trying to die, aren't you? Like,
yeah,
I thought that was a good design element, and it I kind of like the characters that they create in this. Like, they have a lot of memorable folk, like as we had mentioned, like throughout there. So it's
a lot of heroes.
Yeah, a lot of heroes, and that's kind of like
fucking heroes.
Yeah, you need that type of thing, and it kind of helps break the monotony, like you guys were saying. Like
the sheriff killed a lot of enemies for me.
Yeah,
to be honest,
she knows how to use that shotgun. She was like actively throwing down. So,
and I like how at the end, like Alan Wake just writes out like how he committed mass murder. Like all those people that I killed, I didn't really kill them.
They had no souls.
They're all fine. They're all fine. You can't charge me with this in court.
Yeah,
they're all at Deerfest.
They're all
drinking deer cider.
And besides, the sheriff killed most of them.
Should we move on to our final section there?
Oh man, we see the blue and yellow lights in the distance of the last remaining Blockbuster, haunted with the souls of many, many, many Saturday nights. This is Should We Buy the VHS?
Please tell me whether or not I should just buy this VHS.
Logan.
Yes.
We'll cut to you. Do you buy this? Does this go in your cabinet of curiosities of horror video games?
Yeah, if this was a greasy, pizza-stained VHS movie, would you add it to your film collection? Would you add it to your horror movie collection?
Do you take this on sleepovers? As
a game, like I mentioned, I got this for free from PS Plus or whatever. I would actually have paid for it, like if I had known that it was going to be this one. Like I would have happily paid for that. In terms of like the VHS collection aspect of it, 110% yes. Like I could totally see us watching this on a movie night and just having a blast, freaking talking about all of these characters. Like it's exactly what you want this type of story to be, because it's not smart enough where it's like, okay, this is like whatever elevated horror or whatever bullshit term you want to do. Like it knows to have fun when it needs to have fun. So in terms of like VHS, like it is the perfect like VHS type video game. Like, yeah, just from story to like concept and that, like this is such a 90s VHS movie that we would be watching.
Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah, this is one of the most VHS video games we've covered so far. Yeah, of course you buy this. I show this. I make every one of my friends see this. Yeah, absolutely.
100%. You absolutely have to buy this game. It's like I hinted on earlier. It's that thing where it's the joke, but you're not 100% sure whether or not they know. So it's like that's part of the fun of this game. It's just like, what the hell are you guys doing? It's just, and like every line is so cheesily delivered. They have those live videos, like that fucking late night interview. Just everything in this game is just so weird and dumb and fun, and like they have to be in on it. But this is like, you watch this on multiple movie nights. Like this is one where you're like, we haven't watched Alan Wake in a while.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's throw that on.
Yeah,
throw Alan Wake in there.
Yeah, throw Alan Wake on. That's a crowd pleaser. And yeah, this game is a crowd pleaser. I love this dumb game. So yes, it's 100% a buy.
Well, we've come to the end of things. That's a sode. We've done it.
God, high fives all around.
So now we must throw ourselves into the lake and continue writing, because it's not a lake, it's an ocean.
I'm going to write shitty crime fiction for an eternity.
Seriously, like
But the fate of the universe hangs in the balance.
Like, I know that we're saying they're in on the joke, but there's no way that person didn't think that they wrote a banger with it's not a lake, it's an ocean. Like, and they were so wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
God, yeah. That is a Garth Marenghi line.
Also,
it's so perfect.
I don't know if this is a issue, but like, yeah, if you guys aren't good at video games, like, it has an easier mode and stuff on there. So just like, it's one of those games where if you're playing it on easy mode, it's just going to feel like you're playing a movie. So it's very immensely playable in that regard too. So,
well, Logan, thank you so much for being on the show, man. What do you want to plug? What do you want to say? Where can people find you?
Find me on socials at the Logan Trent, and I say this on every podcast, but yeah, if you're listening to this or any of our friends' podcasts, please leave a review, because that shit really helps a lot. So yeah, do that.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, and of course you can find me on Twitter. I refuse to call it the other name, or Blue Sky at Johnny Rhymes.
And if you're interested, you can head over to patreon.com/gameplayunemployed, where just $5 will get you access to all sorts of cool exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, Spiel Boys, and other shows as well. Plus, we have other tiers where we do movie nights with our patrons every Friday night. You can make your own custom podcast series about just about anything you want, and a bunch of other things as well. So check that out. And that's it. Say goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Get out of here. Get.
Our episode artwork is provided by Doc Garby. You can follow him on Twitter at _JDBurrows_. Our channel artwork is produced by Michael Vincent Bramley. You can find more of his artwork at instagram.com/mvbramleyart.